Good morning and welcome to another great edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own Judy Copenbarger. Good morning, Judy. How you doing?
Good morning. I am well. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. Looking forward to our show. But more importantly, we have a really special show, folks. So thank you for joining us this morning. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. We're going to talk about our website a little bit later for resources. But we have a jam-packed show because we want to take a look at last year and some of the great shows that we did, some of the great topics that we covered. And let me start asking you, Judy, what is one of the main ones that stood out for you last year that we talked about?
Oh, there were so many great topics and great questions last year from our audience. I think what seemed to be very valuable for people was the Copenbarger method of vetting a subject matter expert. Like, how do you choose an attorney? How do you choose an investment manager? How do you know if your tax guy's the right kind of guy? And I thought that was really valuable.
Yeah, and actually we're in the new year, right? So this actually plays in really well. Maybe you can give us a brief, reminder of what are some things that we should look for with that.
Sure. Well, the Copenbarger method, we call it the 4H method. It's head, heart, hands, and how. And if you go through some questions in each of those areas, looking for a perfect alignment, a perfect fit with a subject matter expert, you're going to get it right every time. And so the head, that's like what they know. Where did they go to school? How many years have they done it? What kind of experience do they have? What do they know? Do they have the head knowledge to really be an expert? But then the heart, that's kind of the alignment. Do they get you? Do they understand your goals, your objectives, what you're trying to do in life with your family, your values, and things like that? If that's not aligned, there can be some friction in a professional relationship. Really, any relationship, right? You need that alignment, that heart. They need to get you. And then the hands is their method, the breadth of their firm. Do they have enough staff to support you? How do they go about their process? What's the method? How do they communicate? Things like that. And then the how is the delivery. Is the delivery occurring the way it should? Is the responsiveness there? When you call, do they answer the phone?
Right.
And do you have an anticipation of what's happening next? Is there like a map for how they're going to be serving you? And if you go through those 4 things when you're looking for a relationship or to hire someone new to help you, and you get all those, boxes checked, you're going to have a whole lot better chance for a fit than if you just hire somebody from the Yellow Pages or a referral, from a friend or something.
One of the things that I also remember you talking about the 4H, it's that your method actually can apply to just about everything, which was great. Mm-hmm. Folks, if you want to learn more about it, you got to take a look at some of our previous shows too, where Judy goes into a little bit more detail about the 4H method. And it's, like I said, you can apply it to every aspect of your life, when you're looking at things too. So I thought that was definitely that was a fun show to learn that too. So got a lot out of that too. I think another one for me too that kind of stood out was, relationships, right? The his and her money before you get married, after you get married, during your marriage. It's always this constant battle. And to me, that was one of the a real key show too, because a lot of folks had questions. Hey, I'm about to get married. What do I need to do? Or if you're in it already, right? Or you're going into it as an older couple too. What are some things that we need to look at? And maybe you can remind us a little bit too how some of the key things that stood out for you too during that.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to assess your talents. It's like, who should handle the money? He should handle it. She should handle it. They should do it separately and never talk about it. And that the bottom line answer is every couple will find their way. There's not a perfect way because our skills are different. Our experience is different. Our attitudes about money probably are not perfectly aligned, right? Because we didn't grow up in the same house. I hope. Usually, you don't grow up in the same house as your spouse. But it depends on where I am speaking in the country. Sometimes, I got to tiptoe around that. No, it's not like that. But it just really depends on the skills that you have, the talents that you have. Maybe one of you is really better with people. And maybe the delegation of duties that has to do with, waiting on the phone, customer service people, setting up accounts, checking on billing, working with bankers, handling the escrow, if you're buying a house or something. There might be one of you that's really good at that, and the other one really sucks at people. But maybe the other one is really good at keeping the details, keeping the records, putting order to the files. So when you need to go back and get something for your tax guy or your banker, you can find it. And so chances are you have different skill sets. And I think if you really it's kind of like we do it in business all the time, but people at home don't always treat the home business like a business, right? All the bills and the comings and goings of cash. Sometimes it's like you just kind of do it, because it's on fire and you got to fix it. But what if you really sat down and you assess the gifts you have, the talents you have, the skill sets, who's good at what, and you actually wrote down the delegation of those duties, and then everybody knows what's expected and no balls get dropped? It's powerful, simple, not easy, but it's very simple.
I think also the other pieces we're talking about this, I remember that there was also several questions that came up when one of the very first shows that we did talking about planning personal and family finances. You definitely covered a lot of ground, pre-marriage, during marriage, and so forth. But I think also that what folks were not aware is just the differences between wills and trusts, right? What do you need to have in place as you're planning your future, or if you're in it, that you haven't done? And maybe you can talk a little bit about that and refresh folks' memory on that.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll ask, if I'm speaking or in front of an audience or several people, do you need a will or do you need a trust? Kind of a trick question. Some people will say both, and the answer is really neither. You don't need any of that. But if you want to avoid probate, for a lot of people, that's a big indicator, a big motivator for them of it's time to plan, and I really want to do that. Avoiding probate, making sure you're streamlining the process, making sure that your estate plan is fair, even if it's set up and it looks like it's unfair. Sometimes you have to be fair to be unfair and unfair to be fair, because our children are not all the same. Our grandchildren are not all the same. And it depends on, what we're leaving them, how we want them to receive it, all of that. So for most people, it's worth looking at the whole comprehensive picture when we come to estate planning, and just kind of handling all the contingencies in life that could happen. What if there's a death? What if there's an incapacity? What if there's a temporary disability? What if I'm just out of the country and something needs to be signed, or something, we need to borrow money or handle some paperwork, but I'm unavailable? I'm fine, but I'm not here. So all of these things can be handled in a comprehensive estate plan. And the answer is really, the good law school answer. What do I need? It depends. And it really depends on what outcome you're looking for. What is your desired outcome? If you look back 10, 20, 30 years later and you say, the planning I set up was perfect, everything I wanted to have happen happened, and all of the pitfalls that I didn't want to have happen, like family disharmony is a big one in estate planning. Because everybody feels like they didn't get their, what they were supposed to get, or expectations maybe were not set. And when planning is done proper, all of the expectations are set. Even if you're not happy with what mom or dad or grandma or auntie did, whatever, you can live with it because it's very clear. So we went through, if you remember those shows, they were awesome. The questions and the audience participation was great. Just answering questions about, well, what if this and what if that, and what are my options and how can I do it and how much would that cost, right? So estate planning is a big part of any financial planning and any financial strategy, because we all have that inevitable that's going to happen. We just don't know exactly what will happen or when.
And if that lack of communication doesn't take place too, I mean, we've heard the stories, right? All my estate and everything's leaving it to the cats or the dogs or whatever it is, right? Just because you guys can't get it together, so they'll do a lot better than you will. So it's something to think about, folks. And again, I want to take a moment to welcome you guys to the show. We're doing a year-end review, taking some great moments that we had throughout conversations throughout last year as well. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. And we're going to talk about our website in a little bit, so you guys can also know a little bit more resources that are available for you to launch off this year as well, too. So one of the other things too, I remember that stood out for us, because we were talking about this, is also family, right? Because we're talking about family harmony around money and all of that stuff too. And I think one of the it was very educational when you talked about teaching the entire family about money, right?
Yeah.
No matter what age group on that. And I think I would love for you to just kind of revisit that a little bit too.
Yeah, I always say start early and teach often. Little babies, 2-year-olds can understand some financial concepts and the value of working and earning money and the value of saving money. A 4-year-old can save up if they get an allowance or if they get money from grandma from for their birthday or something, or they do some chores around the house, which I think is great. We have this generation, right, coming up now that got the participation trophies, and they didn't always have to work for what they got. That didn't happen when I was a kid. If you wanted something, you went out, figured out how to get money, and you do it, right? By 14, we're working. And as a kid, I was the one that sold whatever was being sold, chocolate bars or newspaper routes, all of that stuff. It's like nobody hands you money. And I think those lessons were so valuable because as an adult, nobody just gives me money because I'm cute. And I'm still cute, maybe not as cute as I was as a kid, but nobody just gives me money for being there. You got to do something. And so I think working with children and helping them understand the value of working, the value of saving, the amazing satisfaction you get when you save up for something and then you walk in there and you count out your dimes and count out your dollars and you get to buy something that you had that delayed gratification and waited for. It's huge. It's huge. And a 4 or 5-year-old can do that. And then all these concepts by 12 years old, 13 years old, like junior high age, that kids can get, like investments, how they work, what's a mutual fund, how do I pick them? There's so many things that we can teach our children and model for them when they're small, so they don't have to go to hard knocks later and learn, oops, I guess I shouldn't have run that credit card up so high. Interest is expensive. Maybe I shouldn't have bought a car I could barely afford because now I have to put tires on it. I have to put gas in it. I have to put oil in it. It's like, it's not just the cost of the car. There's insurance, all these other things that go with it. And so if we can help them learn that and kind of talk them through the financial life while they're small and integrate learning with everything that we're doing, so much value for them. And it's so valuable for them as they grow to already have those lessons ingrained.
Yeah. And, and since we're talking about education, I think it's a good transition to share with folks about your website, judycopenbarger.com. Share with them what are some of the resources and the many things that they can find. And folks, I'm going to tell you, it's free. So don't tell anybody, or actually tell somebody, right? But there's a wealth of resources, and I would love for you to touch on that.
A lot of it's free. Doesn't mean there's no value. Huge value, but the intrinsic value of just doing better because you know better is huge. And it's really part of my legacy. I created the website and all these videos and these courses and wrote books so people would be able to, without having to work with me directly or be in my city, people all over the place can learn the concepts that they need to learn without either having to, do it the hard way, hard knocks, or having mistakes be their teacher. And so all of the concepts that I've figured out over the last 40 years of being knee to knee, nose to nose with clients on the front lines, watching them succeed, helping them stay on the path, to get where they want to go, has been so valuable and so much fun for me. So I've taken these concepts, the visuals, the stories, the simplification of all of these financial concepts that can be very complicated. And I've got them bundled up in a way that people can understand them, where they're relevant, and they can take the information and apply it, as a template right over their lives. They hire the right people to help them, or if they do it themselves, they're on the right path. They're going to avoid some costly mistakes, either losing money or losing time. Same cost, right? Mm-hmm. So I've put together at judycopenbarger.com all of these articles and all of these videos you can watch on YouTube. On YouTube, there is a host of videos that you can watch, but I think the most important and most valuable and organized body of information and education is on the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And you can go there and watch any area of finance, all kinds of courses and classes. So if you want to take just one class on investments or one class on different kinds of trusts or how interest works, you can do that. If you want to take a whole course on taxation, all the different kinds of tax, not just income, you can do that. And that's all available for you at Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program that you can access through the judycopenbarger.com website.
And you heard it, folks. Make sure you take some time, especially this new year, because as we are kind of going over some of the great topics we covered last year, these are great resources that can help you get started throughout the year. And I love the fact too that you talked about legacy, and I think we talked about this over the course of the year too, why you're doing what you do. And it's not, folks need to always remember that it's not, you're not here to just sell products or anything like that. This is you giving back. You've been blessed in a lot of ways, and you're blessing others by sharing this wisdom and information that you put out there every Tuesday. So I want to say thanks again on behalf of all of our audience as well too, and the fact that we get to have you every Tuesday for a half hour to pick your brain and get that wisdom. You know what I mean? To do better things.
Well, as you know, it's my pleasure, and it's part of my work. I feel like it's part of my assignment as being a human. The work that I get to do. So it's my pleasure.
Well, thank you. So there was another show. I mean, there's been so many shows, so many great conversations about this. I remember also the one that stood out to was the intentional use of money, because you had a lot of great things that you talked about, a lot of great examples. Maybe touch on that a little bit, starting, especially since we're starting off the new year.
Yeah, do it on purpose. Some people they look back over the last 5 years or 10 years, and if they weren't planning, if they weren't intentional about how they got there, it's kind of like, well, I'm not sure this is where I wanted to be. Just like a map, if I'm in Southern California, which right now I am until this afternoon, I'm here, and I wanted to go to Seattle, I would get on the 5 and I would go north and never get off of it. That would be the best, quickest, most efficient way to get to Seattle. Well, then why am I in Albuquerque? Why am I in Indianapolis? I might still get to Seattle, but it's not the most efficient way to get there. It might cost me more time, more money, and maybe heartache to try to get back on the path. So if I had started at the beginning and I put an X over Seattle and I said, what do I need to do? And I did spend a little time planning, and I did that, then I can be intentional and get there most efficiently. And anything in life isn't like that. If you're working toward a degree, if you're working toward an amazing, you're planning a great big, anniversary or birthday celebration or something. If you're planning a trip, what's the easiest, quickest way to get there and get it done? What's the outcome I want? Where do I want to be when I get there? And when people start there, and it's just planning backwards, right? They are most efficient and effective, and they're happier, because they know they're on track. The confidence level goes up, and they feel so good about their activities because they're in alignment with their goals. It's huge.
Yeah. And I think as we're getting closer to the end of the show too, I know I want to take some time also to talk about, we talked about clients, but let's talk about businesses, right? I mean, we covered a lot of ground on that. One of the initial things is, especially in a new year, right? You don't know if you're going to be starting a new job, a new business, a new adventure, whatever it is that you're doing. But you did talk you shared a lot of wisdom with planning small business finances. Maybe you can help us, how do we get started with this if we're thinking about, leaving my current job and starting on my own?
Yeah, well, some business owners have an advantage because they have to have a business plan. Maybe they've borrowed money to capitalize their business, and they've had to think intentionally about where they want to go. How many people do I need? How many widgets do I have to have? What will my distribution look like? What kind of service will I provide? What kind of people do I need to hire to get the job done? Business people do have that advantage over people at home. But not every business owner is schooled in business or has natural business acumen. So, for example, a lot of businesses will, let's say I make lamps, and I'm really good lamp maker. It's my passion. It was a hobby. I turned it into a business. My uncle owned the business. I bought it from him, and now it's like a big deal. I know a lot about lamps. I can make lamps. I know how to power them up. I know how to manufacture them. I know how to get them to the right people. So I make a lot of money and there's profit, but I really don't know how to keep records. I don't know how to minimize my taxes. I don't know how to structure my organization chart. So that might not be something that's natural to me, but there are other people out there that make lamps. And we get together in associations, we get together in continuing education for some professionals, and we talk about best practices and best ways to get it done. So business owners do have that advantage, but it's not natural. And if there's any business owners listening, I'm sure there are, I really want you to feel confident with the decisions that you're making in business. And it's okay if you don't have that natural ability to get help and to ask. Make sure that you have the right team on the bench. You got a good tax guy or a good firm. You've got the right attorneys that can protect you and set you up for success in the event that something happens, and things always happen. You have the right investments. You're capitalizing the right way. Your debt ratio is the way it should be. Your cash flows are working, and you're pulling enough money for your own life to work from your business. Some people forget to pay themselves.
Yeah.
So all of these things, getting the right team on the bench, the right people that can holistically help you get where you want to go with your business is like the best thing that you could do.
Yeah. And again, also the 4-H method applies, folks. You heard it earlier. So this is the stuff that you also, as you're getting your team together, you need to make sure you keep in mind as well, too, because it's very important to what we're trying to do as well, too. So business, right? New year, we can put a strategy in place, but there's also the dark side of it. And when I say the dark side of it, we're talking about Uncle Sam and the tax guy, right? Always coming around. So, yeah, exactly, right? We need to have like some little mystery music so we have these moments on that too. But talk to us about now. It's the beginning of the year. Tax time is coming up. What are some things that we need to be aware of? I don't know if there's new laws coming into place that we need to find out about too and make folks aware of. So.
Yes and yes. And it's funny, the end of the year is like, hey, yay, I had a really great year. And it's like, oh, shoot, I had a really great year. Because taxes are right around the corner. It's like, shoot, got to account for all of that now. But big changes. The last couple of years, we have new administration means new changes. Always does. And so some changes have already happened in the tax codes. And here we're talking mostly about estate tax and income tax, like gains, things like that. There are changes. Almost every year there are some changes. But now with the pandemic that we've had the last couple of years, we've been dealing with that. There are so many credits available for people on the good side. So like business owners, property owners, there are so many credits that can help relieve some of those things. So make sure if you're doing your own taxes that you really get up on this. I would say if you've always done your own taxes, this might be a good year to get a professional, to at least an enrolled agent. But I would prefer that you think about a CPA, a certified public accountant, because they're going to be up on all of these rules and credits that are available. And there's credits for everything. And if you qualify for them, why would you walk away from free money? It could be substantial. That's the good thing. The bad thing with changes like this is we have spent a lot of money, as most of our states have. California, we definitely did. But as a nation, we've spent a lot of money. And there are proposals to spend a lot more, like lots. And you're hearing about it. I'm sure if you're watching news at all, you know that there have been proposals for big spending to do several things, which is not always a bad thing. Usually when we get a little upset about taxes or we disagree about taxes, it's not that there's a tax. It's about how much the tax is and then how the money's used once it's received. That's usually where we get uncomfortable because we don't all agree on everything all the time, right? So anyway, there are proposed changes that are very, very impactful for people that own property or have any estate at all. People that have a little bit of wealth, maybe you've saved up, you've got a nice IRA going, maybe you own a business that at some point could be sold, liquidated, or somehow turned into money for you. Maybe you'll sell it over time, which is really smart, by the way. But what are we going to do about all these taxes that are being proposed? The big nasty ones, from my view, as a strategic planner, thinking about finances, thinking about estate planning, they're taking away, if everything passes, they're taking away so many opportunities for people to pass wealth to their family, to their loved ones, to their children and grandchildren, to their successors in business. They're taking away the ability to do that without applying the estate tax. So for several years now, we've had very favorable estate tax rules. Unless you like paying more, they're favorable. And so the top rate's 40%, and you pay 40% on every dollar over the threshold of whatever you're passing, like to your kids, for example. But they're proposing that 40% goes way higher, and that the amount of money that is exempt from that tax goes way lower. And so for regular people that have a house and a little bit of retirement, maybe a little savings, it will impact them where almost everything that they're giving to their kids is now taxed at a very high rate. And that's awful. Mm-hmm. Another thing they're taking away, as proposed, is there's planning that you can do. There are certain documents and trusts and different planning instruments in the legal world that we can use to work around those taxes that are legally binding and legally okay to avoid those taxes and pass wealth without applying that heavy tax. And they're taking those away. So I hope that part doesn't pass. I hope it continues to be negotiated where the way that we pay for the last couple of years and the proposed spending doesn't come from the estate tax side, but that's the low-hanging fruit, really, for the government. That's where a lot of tax dollars come from. But I don't think it's right. We pay taxes in several kinds, right, in our lifetime. And we pay tax every time we earn money, every time we buy something, excise tax. There are all these taxes that apply. And then you finally, after the tax, you end up with a little nugget, maybe a big nugget, but you end up with something that you get to leave as legacy for your family. And then they want to take a big chunk of that too. It's like, I didn't vote for that. It doesn't seem right. So, and, again, it's okay to have a tax, but it's how much and how the money's used that just, usually gets under people's skin. So there are things to think about, things to plan for. Many changes have already happened in the tax codes, many proposed that will impact almost everyone. So we got the good part. We got the bad part. Another thing, just, to think about is if you were one of these folks that were able to benefit from all of the EIDL or the PPP, if you have a business, unemployment is taxable for most people. And so if you didn't have taxes withheld, you might want to prepare for that. You might have a surprise. So some people, they were getting unemployment, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over the year. And if they weren't withholding, that tax will be due. And IRS doesn't like to wait. Sam, doesn't like to wait. He wants his tax now. And if you don't pay it now, there's interest and penalties and all kinds of other, it gets really big quick. So that might trigger, if you received unemployment, it might trigger you to think, wow, well, what is the tax that I better start saving? Another thing is the forgiveness. Some loans for businesses that had employees where it was great. It was credits. The money came out. They delivered pretty quickly in every round of that. But as those loans are forgiven, that's a taxable event. And that's almost a phantom income. It's like they didn't write me a check, so I didn't think I would be taxed on it. But not having to pay something back that you received, not having to pay, that loan back is what IRS says that's income. It's not really income, but it's phantom income, taxable. So be prepared. And as I mentioned, if you've never had a CPA help you before, this might be a good time to think about finding the right one.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that, folks. And you really need to get out there and start, putting things together, talking to folks, going through the 4-H method as you're interviewing folks to get this year's taxes done as well, too. So before we end our show, I want to make sure that we get to our favorite part of it. Can't be a Money Truth moment without a challenge, right? So what do you got for us?
That's right. So I would like you to use the Copenbarger method of financial strategic planning, the ABCDEs, and apply it to your life as we're going into a new year so you can start to be very strategic and intentional about your planning. And here are the ABCs. A, assess. What do I really need? When I'm thinking of my financial life, where's the gap? What's missing? What would make it way better? B is balance. What do I have in terms of resources? What kind of time do I have? What kind of money do I have? And marry that up with the outcome that you'd like to have. That's the balance. C is connect. Find the person, find the information, have the conversation, connect what you'd like with what you need to do about it. Maybe it's gathering information, maybe applying for insurance, maybe checking out at work what kind of retirement programs that are available for you. You want to make that connection. And then D is delivery. Put it into implementation, right? Put it into effect. Make it a fact. If you need a will, get a will. If you need a trust, get a trust. If you need to upgrade maybe your tort liability umbrella policy, liability coverage on your home or your business, do that. And that's going to be the D, delivery. And then E, evaluate. Evaluate whatever activity that you did and make sure that it lines up with the outcome you want and it solves the problem that you have, or it gets you where you want to go. You know, it's putting an X on Seattle. That's where I want to go. That's your ABCDE's Copenbarger method. Good luck with that. You're going to succeed.
Awesome. And folks, thank you for watching the show today. If you're just tuning in, please make sure you watch the beginning of the show. We did a yearly wrap. There was a lot of additional great content that we just discussed, so make sure you take a look at it, share it out with your friends. And if you're not following Judy, do so at judycopenbarger.com. We've got a great year ahead of us, so make sure that you stay tuned every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Judy, any last parting words?
Just make it a great day, great week, great month, great year. You can do this.
All right. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.